guys, this is Chris with Team Night Ride, and today I'm doing a deck profile as you can see, Seraph Snow. So I'm going to start off with the ride line, which I have already lined out for you. And it's a generic ride line. You know, you got your grade 0, your 1, 2, and 3 that haven't changed since the beginning. So you got your starter, who lets you draw if you go second, your prison searcher, as well as your grade 2 that lets you -1 from your opponent's hand. And of course we have the grade 3 Seraph Snow herself, who for a counterblast lets you imprison 2 of your opponent's rear guards, and if you have 3 cards in prison, she gets an extra drive, and as long as there's something in prison, she gets an extra 10k. So it's your basic generic ride line. Again, nothing has really changed since set 1. So let's go on to the grade 3s. So for grade 3s, you are running your other 3 copies of Snow, as well as I am running 2 copies of Execute Limon, who says for a Counterblast 1 and a Soul Blast 3, you can choose up to 3 of your opponent's rear guards and imprison them. And then if there's 3 or more of your opponent's cards in prison, she gets 10k, and if there's 5 or more in the prison, she gets an extra crit. Some people don't run her. I do because of preference, because that extra 10k and crit does help in the deck, especially when you're triple driving and you can stack triggers on her, which will always make her scary, especially if you get an over trigger. And then as for grade 2s, we play for Rogue. You would always play Rogue because she's so good. She is your other card that lets you put a card in prison for a Soul Blast, and then as long as you have 2 cards in prison, she gains 5k power and 10k shield, and this includes during your opponent's turn. So, you know, she can always be a 15k beat stick, or she can be a 15k shield. So I find her to be really good, and I always play her at 4. Then for other grade 2s, I play 3 copies of Turquoise. Turquoise is good because she gains that extra 5k power as well when there's 2 or more in prison. And then whenever your opponent is trying to take cards out of the prison, as long as she's in the front row, she will always have them neg -5, which can always come in handy. So I play her at 3. And then I play 1 copy of Therio Violet. She says that when she's placed on Guardian Circle, if I have 1 more card in prison, I can Soul Blast 1 and choose one of my opponent's units. One of my opponent's units that are attacking that is grade 2 or less cannot hit until the end of the battle. So she's basically a PG without being a PG, as long as you got something in prison. Then we also play 2 Spark Limon. In case your opponent is trying to stall and not put cards on the field for you to imprison them, I find her to be good on pressure, because your opponent's not going to want to let her hit, because then you get to imprison 2 cards from the drop, which will fuel your prison, at the same time putting that on pressure in case they're trying to avoid you prison. Finally, we also play 3 24 hours. So the card states for a Soul Blast, your opponent, as long as your opponent has 4 more cards in hand, they have to put 1 of them in the prison. And then if there are 3 or more cards in prison, I choose one of my units and they gain 5k power. So it's a great card for the fact that it negs 1 from opponent's hand, and it gives 1 of your units plus 5k. So I feel like that's great. You know, once they're low, you can just put this on there and just create more pressure on them. We're going to go to the grade 1s. So for starters, we are playing 4 PGs because PGs are great. We need PGs, you know, we don't want them to hit. We play 1 prison for obvious reasons. It's a prison deck, you need prison. We play 4 copies of Speed Robo for the fact that He is an amazing card for the fact that you can play one Counterblast and a Soul Blast to imprison one of your opponent's rear guards, and the fact that if you have 3 or more, he lets you draw. Words cannot describe how many times that card has saved me in a fight. Next up, I play 4 copies of basically Bug Motor. So he's great early because you can rest him to put 1 card from your opponent's drop into prison as long as you have 1 or less cards. Therefore, he could add up to about 2 in prison, but he's really just there to help you generate more stuff. And that is it for grade 1s. Next up are triggers. We run 1 over trigger because we need over triggers. Self-explanatory in this meta. Then we're going to play 3 basic crits. Then we play 4 of the new set 3 crits, which will let you go to soul. Then we play 4 fronts into the deck. The new fronts, I get 5k shield. And then you just play 4 heal triggers. You do not want to play draw triggers in the deck. If you play draw triggers, you're going to deck yourself out faster than Barrel Magnus. So that's why I don't play draws. I feel like the deck helps you draw enough as it is. And that's about it for my deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. Any questions, just leave them in the comments.